Ministry of Youth Development and Sports. And our third pledge we'll be dealing with today is that the Labour government will, the third one is actually the Labour government will assist secondary school students with CXC exam fees. And we are, of course, in the season of CXC at the moment. With me are the External Affairs Minister and Member of Parliament for Labrie, the Honorable Alva Romanas Baptiste. Next to him, to his immediate left, is our endorsed candidate and the person we believe will be the next representative for the constituency of Meekwood South, Gibeon Ferdinand. And next to me is the person we also believe will be the parliamentary representative for the ancillary Canaries constituency following the June 6th general election, John Victor. Our first presenter will be our External Affairs Minister, who will be followed by Gibeon, and we'll round off with John, and thereafter we take your questions, which are generally going to be directed to either myself or the External Affairs Minister, even if others are going to respond. So thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. External Affairs Minister.
Thank you very much.
No, wait, let's get the microphones posted.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning, members of the press. We have a very important pledge that we will establish a tertiary education trust fund and will finance it by an allocation of $3 million every year for 5 years. This fund will be managed by an independent board and will aim to finance tertiary education, especially for young people from underprivileged and vulnerable households. The St. Lucia Labour Party understands that to graduate our economy and our society from dependence to self-sufficiency requires a skilled, educated, and trained workforce. We also recognize that the external work environment is changing rapidly as a result of technology and ease of travel. If St. Lucia is to realize the potential that we all know it to possess, we must develop a more highly skilled workforce. That workforce must be more productive, more efficient, and capable of reacting quickly to any new opportunities that present themselves. Our competitors are no longer our sister islands in the OECS or CARICOM. We are now competing in a global marketplace which has no qualms about taking our own products, modifying or adding value to them, and selling the finished product as their own. We will not always be able to rely on our small size and vulnerability as sufficient justifications for safety nets to be created for our country by the international community. We have to equip ourselves with the skills and the abilities to hold our own and compete with the best at a global level. Some of our citizens have already demonstrated that we can. We now have to give as many of our youth as possible that opportunity. To make this possible, our government will increase the number of opportunities for our youth to access tertiary and university education. We have to significantly increase the percentage of our population who have successfully completed university studies. We intend to do this in two ways. The first involves creating a tertiary education trust fund, which will capitalize to an amount of $3 million a year for 5 years. This trust fund will be managed by an independent board, and its sole mandate will be to finance university education for deserving young people from underprivileged and vulnerable households. Secondly, we will complete the conversion of Sir Arthur Lewis Community College into a university college with degree granting authority. That way, more St. Lucians will be able to remain at home and get a high-quality university education and obtain their university degrees. We are confident that these initiatives, together with the Labour government's unrelenting efforts to secure more scholarships for our students from external universities, will allow us to develop the highly skilled and trained workforce we need to explore and develop new productive areas of economic activity. I thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. I am the Labour Party candidate for Miko South, Gibeon Ferdinand, and today I will be presenting on one of the St. Lucia Labour Party's pledges in education. The next Labour government will introduce a program to assist parents in meeting the cost of fees for CXC exams. This program will be based on need and performance and will take effect in 2017. Education and human resource development have now become synonymous with the St. Lucia Labour Party government. This is a government that eliminated the shift system in our school system. We constructed new secondary schools in PI, in Angers, Babonneau, Ciceron, Marigot, and Grosely. We brought universal secondary education to St. Lucia to make it possible for every child in primary school to get a secondary school education. It was the Labour administration that developed the book bursary program for primary school students and introduced a textbook rental program in secondary schools. The National Skills Development Center was established by the Labour government in 2001. And through the NSDC, learning enrichment centers were set up in several locations around the island. Our administration understands that education must extend from toddler to senior. This is why we established the National Enrichment and Learning Programs to give adults an opportunity to acquire new skills and knowledge. Our administration, in the last 4 years, we have continued to focus on human resource development. We introduced the bursary of $500 to parents of children who passed the common entrance examination. We provided a $600 teaching supplies grant to teachers. Our government introduced the one laptop per child program so that every student in forms 3, 4, and 5 now own laptops which they use for research and learning. We refurbished the Saltibus Combined, Denier Riviere Combined, Dennery Primary, and Deriso Combined schools. Additionally, our Labour government renovated the Viewfort Infant, the Corinth Secondary, the Clendon Mason Memorial, Foassa Combined, Canaries Infant, and Miku Infant and Primary schools. In our next term of office, we will help those families who find it difficult to meet the cost of CXC exams by introducing a program in 2017 to assist parents in paying for these exams. This program will be based on need and performance, and it will ensure that no capable, deserving child is left behind, and no parent will have to suffer the pain and anguish of not being able to register their child for examinations. This is who we are, a caring party that believes everyone must be given an opportunity to succeed and to excel. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. I am John Victorin, the Labour Party's endorsed candidate for the ancillary candidates constituency, and I am here to present the Labour Party's pledge to make youth and sports development a priority. The St. Lucia Labour Party believes in the youth of our country. Between 1997 and 2006, we created a separate Department of Youth and Sports within the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports, and staffed that ministry with its own permanent secretary and administrative structure. It was during that period that the George Odlum Stadium, the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground, and the Beausejour Indoor Gymnasium were built. It was also during that period we established the National Skills Development Center, NSDC, and several learning enrichment centers. During our current term of office, we elevated the profile of youth and sports by creating a dedicated, separate Ministry of Youth Development and Sports. Over the last 4.5 years, we launched the Beckwith International Leadership Development Program, BUILD, to instill leadership qualities and strengthen the skills of our youth. We also developed and launched a youth agricultural entrepreneurship program. At the sports development level, our work was equally impressive. At least 12 sports facilities were rehabilitated, 3 new multipurpose courts were constructed, and lights were installed at 5 sporting facilities. In our next term of office, we will sharpen our focus on youth development by enacting a national youth service bill and developing a national youth service with a youth corps of young people between the ages of 18 and 75 years. These corps will be part of the national volunteers, and they will work in our youth service programs. We will also introduce a new mode of youth governance at schools, in the student councils, and in the constituency councils with elected youth representatives. At the level of sports development, we intend to restore and rehabilitate the George Odlum Stadium as part of a new modern national sports center. This complex will contain auxiliary facilities for swimming, a national sports academy, and hostel-type accommodation for an integrated sports development program. These are just a few of our many exciting new initiatives for youth and sports development that will be fully unveiled at the big launch event of our manifesto on Wednesday next week. I thank you.
Pay our communications director. You and we'll take your questions now, if any.
Socioeconomic model comes from South Louis, right? The Labour Party is proposing to convert South into a university college under a new term. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to ask here is why has Singapore chosen to use something that's homegrown, and why is this not been used here? That's my question.
Well, let me take the first part. It's interesting how we always reference the Singapore model of development, but say nothing about its manner of government. Because its government is not under its founding father. Its government was almost a benevolent dictatorship. you have to understand that we are a democracy, that we can't do some of the things that Singapore did to get where it was at the time. For example, people are not supposed to chew gum. People are not supposed to do certain things. So discipline was forced onto certain people. In our democracy, we still have the right to do or not to do. So I think that's one of our drawbacks, as I think it was in the pledge read by the External Affairs Minister. We talked about a skilled and disciplined. So that's one difference, which I just wanted to highlight. But I would not agree with you that we have not taken aspects of Sir Arthur Lewis's model. The reality is that no single model can be taken wholesale from one country to the next and just be implemented. Each country has its own unique peculiarities. We talk about Singapore being same size with us, but the topography is not the same. So it's slightly different. So there are a lot of differences. I just thought I'd have that caveat if External Affairs Minister.
So SANCC will be a university college only if Labour is re-elected, or will that idea be perhaps? Because Labour is promoting education for all. So is that a partisan proposal? Is what I'm asking.
Well, you'll have to ask the United Workers' Party if they are themselves interested in that forward-thinking move. We certainly could not speak for the United Workers' Party. We speak for the Labour Party, our plans, our aspirations, a party, as John said, which is rooted in the development of people. So, but the Minister wanted to
yes, I think it's a very interesting observation that you have made about Singapore. The circumstances are very different. You look at Singapore with millions of people as opposed to the St. Lucian Society. Then Singapore takes advantage, they do not have oil, but they take advantage of building a lot of oil rigs. You know, so they're a major player by virtue of their own location. In a small, open and vulnerable economy like ours, we must now make the transition from what our society used to be to now. Before, during the Cold War, we lived in the 20th century. Diplomacy was quite different. You had 2 world wars, 2 major powers, and of course, you had the Cold War. And diplomacy was conducted in the context of power. Being in close proximity to the United States of America during the Cold War, we benefited from some factory shares that established and provided employment for some of our school leavers. At that time, a number of our young people could not access a secondary school. So they were deemed failures under the United Workers' Party in times past because there was not that opportunity. And they worked at the factories. Very brilliant, worked very hard, and got an income to assist themselves. The world has changed since the 20th century, the entering the 21st century. You find that the Cold War has come to an end, and world trade took on a different complexion altogether. And countries that probably were at war with each other were now friends. And those same factory shells were now relocated to other areas where labor was cheap. Do we compete with those other countries? Absolutely not. We need to move to high end. For example, you may train a number of chemical engineers that we can manufacture chemicals that they require in America to complete the assembly of cars, for example, the manufacturing of BMW, etc. So we could be competitive in that regard, ICT. But for us to move to that new dispensation, we must educate our people. We must give them the opportunity to educate themselves so that we are going to be prepared for that day. Because we are forced to evolve new economic instruments and new social institutions if we are to survive. So we cannot stay there, a group of men decide, okay, we are educated and we have gone to university and we have a prescription that will cure the problems of our country. No, we want everybody to become active participants in constructing that new St. Lucian economy as we try to survive in a rapidly changing global environment.
So has the revenue stream been identified for that $3 billion annual allocation? Where's that money coming from?
I'll tell you what, we need to maintain the revenue streams that we have. and try to create the space necessary for us to continue to contribute towards our economic independence. For example, the official development assistance we once got from friendly countries, we no longer get it. Europe, which is our #1 development partner, they pay VAT rates, for example, between 17% and 27%, and they send some supplies to us. We must demonstrate to the international community that we are prepared to accept the challenge of raising the revenues necessary to finance our expenditure. And no doubt, we cannot appear to be telling them that they must pay higher VAT rates in their own countries and send to us. And we're quarreling about 15% VAT, which is probably among the lowest in the OECS, for example. So we need to be very clear as to where we are going as a people and what we demonstrate to the outside world. We must demonstrate to them that we are disciplined, we are going to raise the required revenue, we are going to ensure that there is good governance, because no longer countries want to send the money to countries that engage in corruption. That's why good governance is absolutely necessary to attract support from other countries that go through their own challenges as well.
That's the same theory in 2017 if Labour is in office and decides to pay for, or gives the option to pay for CXC fees. Same idea.
We are going to continue to manage the economy. We inherited a fiscal deficit. We do not have the surplus to do the things that we would have probably liked to do in this term, but we clean up the economy. We are dealing with it in a decisive way. And in the new dispensation, we are going to create more jobs and more opportunities for young people. So as we continue to manage that economy, return fiscal sanity to our country, we will be able to deliver to our
On that $500 CXC grocery, is it mandatory?
Is it $500?
$500 to pay for CXC?
No, we haven't stated an amount. No.
$500
$500 is the first time bursary for common entrance.
You're a victim of misleading information.
No, it's for the first time.
CXC fees, well, this is what I'm asking. Who qualifies? And let's say there are students who probably don't need that monetary assistance. Is it mandatory or
No,
how would it be implemented?
I think the policy did say needy. Needy.
Just
Yeah,
Need and
needy.
performance.
Yeah.
Need and performance.
And clearly a criteria will be drawn up and for qualification, which of course, in keeping the Labour Party's policy of transparency, even though we set the policy, we are not the ones as the politicians who get involved in the selection. We leave that to the technocrats. So we set the policy up so nobody can accuse the Labour Party of saying the bursary for the $500 for CXC students that we give to A, B, and C because this politician said so. No, everybody qualifies.
Okay, and all of this is based on proposed growth or projected growth over the next couple of years. I know there are a lot of earlier. I think during the first of this series, there was indication that the 2,000 or so rooms will be built, increasing capacity and that sort of thing. So, are these proposals based on? Are they dovetailing based on each other?
Not just growth. I mean, just remember, even in an ailing economy, the Labour Party made certain pledges in its manifesto of 2011. Among them was the laptops, the bursary. Even in an ailing economy, we kept those promises. We are a party of keeping promises. We don't make promises to get elected. We make promises because we are a caring party. So it is not simply that we are proposing, as the pledge said for the CXC, that is to take effect in 2017. We didn't say immediately because we know we have to budget for it in next year's budget.
I think you are on point. And the second aspect of that is that the Labour Party has demonstrated it has the competence to do things that it pledges to do. So, like, for example, we inherited the fiscal deficit. We left unemployment at 13.6%. We left a growing economy. It is confirmed by the World Bank and the IMF that wealth was more evenly distributed. We didn't inherit that in 2011. However, we created enough space to assist the most vulnerable. We eased the squeeze. And no doubt, we have actually reduced the fiscal deficit. And I think it's a necessary precursor to doing more in the new dispensation to help our people and to actually move to that new St. Lucian economy that we want to build.
The last thing for me,
No, don't limit yourself.
sports. Sports is also on your agenda. I'm not sure. I mean, if you've been to any sports meet and you observe the attendance, the numbers, compare that to a political rant. You know, it's glaring how the interest levels are different. In order to get the youth involved in sports, in order to keep them encouraged, certainly they would need anybody in sports would need support. How can Labour, I mean, after so many years, create and sustain a certain interest in local sport?
Well, they have two mappy pieces.
If I could speak to this, it is not totally accurate to say that sporting events are not well attended, because I can make reference to CPL,
but that's a regional
Black Hat football.
Okay.
It's really how it's
The
organized.
recent, what's it, Divisions?
Divisions.
Yeah. There are some events that we must admit are poorly attended. I think it comes down to marketing and organization. I think people are interested in the events, but as anything else, sports it comes down to being an event. If you just have a game without proper marketing, proper management, people will not be interested. So I think while the sporting infrastructure can be improved and the events can be organized, but if we do some work on the marketing, promoting the sports, to sort of pick up from the Jamaica model, for example, inter-secondary school sports is well attended. Why? Because the ministry provides buses, the tickets go to the schools, the students are well oriented, and the stadium is full. But there are certain events, if they are not properly marketed and managed, then people take low interest. So the attendance at our sporting events really have to come down to how the Ministry of Sports, in collaboration with whichever sporting organization or entity, gets together to market it, so that people can develop an interest, you can build a hype, whether you have to pay or whether it's for free, that they will be there to attend.
No.
But just one, if I may make a comment on that. It is absolutely critical that we continue to nurture a sporting culture, and the Labour Party has laid the foundation for that. The improvement in facilities throughout the island, properly grass playing fields, lighting facilities, basically the implementation of the school sports program has been revolutionized. And last year we experienced a separate awards ceremony for the secondary school sporting program. So the Labour Party is investing in the development of sports, and it's only through nurturing that culture we will experience a lot more spectators viewing sports within our sporting facilities. So the effort has started, and the Labour Party will concentrate on continuing that effort to ensure that we develop the sporting culture, which will harness the talent of our young people within this country, and definitely give them the opportunity to excel at the highest level.
Right. So yeah, the venues and facilities throughout St. Lucia, you cannot deny that yes, they're up to a certain standard, that some of them national and even regional. But I'm not hearing about the John Olive Stadium in Beaufort. We can appreciate that it's a hospital, but this was a multi-million-dollar investment that's been ailing for some time now. I don't think I've recalled hearing anything from the Labour Party.
Well, you recall at, I almost said last week because of the holiday, you'd recall on Wednesday's press conference, I think you had an emergency to attend, so you were not there, to have heard the statement by the health minister on the status of the St. Jude Hospital, which is located at the George Odlum Stadium. In that statement, I think she said, was it towards the end of the year, that the movement would have taken place, and that would now leave the George Odlum Stadium to revert to its original intent, and the Labour Party.
The plan has been outlined, or is being outlined, drawn up to try to get George Odlum Stadium back the way it was.
Well, the plans are there, and you would have heard that the manifesto launch is in a couple of days' time. We certainly will invite you to be there, where those where that will be to ensure you get there.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the plans were highlighted in my presentation. The reality is the Labour Party government will look at the construction of a sporting complex right where the George Odlum Stadium is located. You'll have a swimming facility right there. You'll have a hostel with a comprehensive sports program being implemented right there in that facility. So there is a clear plan for the George Odlum Stadium. It is simply a matter of everything being in place for the hospital to move across to its original location at St. Jude's. And once that is done, the Labour Party is going to move to establish that sporting complex right there at the location of the George Odlum Stadium.
I wasn't there last week. Mr. Chairman, is 6 or the time St. Jude has been at George Odlum? Hasn't it been too long?
Well, not if you were in tune with the statement made by the minister. It wasn't just a statement about a reopening. It was a statement from the date of the fire to the present, detailing all of the reasons the timing has been so extended. So I'd invite you to get a copy of that statement, and all of the answers would be in there.
Yes, but very importantly, we need to appreciate a few things. When political parties ask about when will the hospital be open, etc., it must be sensitive to context. And I think I agree with the chairman who indicated that there is a particular plan, an agenda to deliver the hospital at some point in time. But I don't think, politicians are the ones really working at the hospital. We have been doing everything possible to ensure that we have a facility in the south that could take care of our needs as we prepare to introduce universal health care, which at some point will be carefully ventilated, by the people of this country. But very, very, very importantly is the fact that that particular stadium and hospital be close to Iwanora International Airport, and it needs to serve the needs of not just the people of the southern part of the island, but if there is an emergency, for that hospital to be so equipped. Now that the sea, sun, and sun tourism product reaching a mature phase, we have to reach out to new areas of tourism, and sports tourism is extremely important. No doubt, having a cricket ground and a national stadium has actually prepared us for us to attract more visitors to our shores on the basis of that. So no doubt, as soon as the relocation of the hospital is completed, we will give immediate attention to restoring the George Odlum Stadium to its original state. And as Mr. Victorin did mention, we are going to expand the facility, so we have a spectrum of facilities that will make us more attractive as a destination. Yes.
I was about to say ladies first, but then.
I wanted to know, in regards to the electoral observers, do we have any? I know the government have been receptive, in that regard. Do we have any this time around? And furthermore, any updates for a new DPP and the work impact matter?
Well, first of all, on the electoral matter, we dealt with that last on Tuesday. As we said, the Labour Party's but it is not for the Labour Party. The Labour Party does not conduct elections. The electoral department does that. The record of the St. Lucia Labour Party on observers, whether regional or international, is unblemished. We have always welcomed them. And if a request is made, because the request is made through the electoral department, once that is made, I can speak, even though the Prime Minister is not there, I can say definitively, both the Labour Party as a party and the government, of which Prime Minister Anthony heads, would be absolutely receptive. Let me restate what I said on Wednesday. St. Lucia has among the proudest records in the world on the conduct of elections. Whether it is the United Workers' Party, which is in office when the elections are called, or the St. Lucia Labour Party when the elections are called, and that has changed several times. The government changed in 1964. It was the Labour Party which called the elections. They lost. The United Workers' Party called the elections in 1979, just months after independence. They lost. Then elections were called in 82. We lost. The United Workers' Party called elections in 1997. They lost. We called it in 2006. We lost. They called it in 2011. They lost. There has been a continuous transition of free and fair elections. I don't think any right-thinking person, whether United Workers' Party supporter or a Labour Party supporter, can say other than whoever has been in government has tried to ensure the process is free from fear and fairly organized. So we have a proud history. So if the request is made, we will certainly accede to it. And the question of the DPP, again, the appointment of a DPP is not an executive decision. It is a judicial and legal services decision. So it is a comment that will be better directed to the Chief Justice because, again, there's a separation of powers. All the government does when a DPP is appointed is to put the terms and conditions of the employment in terms of the salary, the housing, etc. But who is employed is the premise of the Judicial and Legal Services Commission.
I spoke to the electoral department and they're saying that they have no information or they do not have any names in regards to observers. Furthermore, the Organization of American States, they're saying that they have not received any invitation from the Prime Minister in regard to electoral observers. So I understand your argument that the government have been forthcoming, but are there any confirmed observers in this election?
Well, I don't know. I can tell you that in the past when we were in government, we received requests for observers. So I'm a little surprised now that the OAS is saying that we have to invite them, because my own experience when I was a member of the Electoral Commission was that requests were made of us, which were either transmitted to the government or made of the government, which were transmitted to us. So I will certainly have to speak to the Prime Minister about that. But as I say, my own experience as an election commission member previously was that the request was made of us. And she had a question for us.
You mentioned the manifesto. Putting the pledges and the 2011 manifesto side by side, when you see that some of the pledges are indeed in the manifesto. So how can St. Lucians be confident that the pledges now will come into fruition if the SLP comes into power once again?
As I'm sure the deputy leader of the party is itching to answer that. Yeah. But in a simple sentence, by our proud record of achievement of fulfilling the promises made in the 2011 manifesto. If we were being judged by the CXC, we'd have a distinction.
That's right.
But what I'm saying is that they would, and the assisting parents with CXC fees.
But that wasn't.
In the 2011 manifesto, yes, it was. However, it was not fulfilled.
We had in the 2011 manifesto the CXC fees, not the bursary. Not the bursary. No. I think you would need to go and read that again. We never had a manifesto pledge in 2011 dealing with CXCs. We had a pledge to deal with bursaries, which we have fulfilled. There are pledges we did not make in the manifesto that we gave.
If you can find the section.
What page is it on in the manifesto? Because we do have manifestos here, I think.
But on my, what I'm trying to get on my other question, you mentioned that we are sort of fighting for 15% back, but other countries have high percentage in 2023. Or they didn't fully answer Yannick's question as to the revenue streams, which leads into interpretation that is there maybe what or increasing back or anything of that sort?
No. Certainly, this is not something you do automatically. Like we said, we are managing the economy and we are creating new opportunities. For example, you may have new foreign direct investment, which we're working on, that will stimulate greater employment in the country, that will bring about greater revenues to the government of St. Lucia. So you do not necessarily have to increase VAT rates, for you to fulfill your pledges. It is the overall management of the economy, which is within the sphere of competence of the St. Lucia Labour Party government. This is why we were able to grow the economy between 1997 and 2006. This is why we were able to reduce unemployment from a high of 24% to 13.6%. So we have demonstrated that we have the discipline and the cerebral competence to deal with the business of state in a manner in which to deliver greater benefits to the people of the country.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. And as I said, we'll see you again next week, Monday, when we deliver fourth set of pledges. So see you then, and thank you again for being here.